what you heard earlier on the loops, that they have received the go to proceed past waypoint 1 and head straight on to waypoint 2. The soft capture ring, that initial contact between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station continuing to retract. And we'll await for the calls that the sensors read that it'll be time for those 12 hooks on the Dragon to then begin driving and connecting itself to form a hard mate to the International Space Station. The soft capture ring, that initial contact between the Dragon Grace and the International Space Station, continuing to retract. And we'll await for the calls that the sensors read that it will be time for those 12 hooks on the Dragon to then begin driving and connecting itself to form a hard mate to the International Space Station.
So, ladies and gentlemen, in case you're wondering what's on right now, docking is when the spacecraft joins the launch and locks itself to the International Space Station, so the crew can safely go inside. Think of it a kind of a party connecting it to a building through which people can walk in. So, the approach has begun. The spacecraft Crew Dragon, carrying the Axiom-4 astronauts, starts getting close to the International Space Station. Thereafter, it continues to use GPS, radar, cameras.
So those are the visuals that you can see
Ring
right
retraction complete.
now
Docking
of
sequence
the
is holding for MCF
Dragon capsule
reconfiguration.
docking onto the International Space Station. Well, the docking process started almost 2 hours ago, and the other side you see Shubhanshu Shukla, Shuks as the call sign is, his parents there with his family watching this docking process. Well, as this docking process continues, we will give you more details of what has been happening and what's going to happen. Subhanshu Shukla, who is piloting this
Dragon Grace spacecraft
expedition,
mission
is part
for
of this docking
astronauts
process.
Peggy Whitson,
Although it is
Shubhanshu
entirely
Shukla,
automated, but
Swabush
everything
Wisniewski,
is
Igor
extremely
Kapu
crucial
arrived at the
as
International Space
slowly
Station.
the
Soft capture,
Dragon
contact at
capsule
5:31
moved close to the
Central
International
Time,
Space Station,
6:31
and at
a.m.
around
Eastern,
5:31 Central
orbiting above
Time
the North
is what was
Atlantic.
announced as the time it made
And
contact
right now,
with the
the
International
two mated with
Space
that soft
Station.
capture, the soft capture ring retracting to pull the spacecraft closer to the International Space Station. And once given the go, the ring or the hooks around the Dragon nose cone will drive and connect to form a hard mate.
As the docking process continues, we can see on the screen parents of Shubhanshu Shukla, Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, they're watching their son
Teams on the ground
being
in
part
both Houston.
of
Station Houston on the
history
big loop,
being
MCS
written
configured,
for India.
proceeding with hook driving.
Station copies.
And the great call there, that's the next step in this docking procedure, is the driving of the hooks, the 12 hooks surrounding the nose cone or the nose of the Dragon spacecraft. And we'll monitor those. They'll drive in 2 sets of 6.
So some tense but
The
excited
first set of
moments there for the
6 right
family.
now, they're traveling. And we'll continue to follow along as the docking process continues on. And then after that first set of 6, the second set will drive and connect Dragon to form a hard mate to the International Space Station. And once the docking is complete, NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers, who have been monitoring from the International Space Station from the cupola of the Dragon's arrival, it'll be Ayers that'll begin the hatch opening or hatch operations. And that'll start by opening up the main hatch on the Node 2 Zenith section of the Harmony module. That's what you see Dragon connected to. And what's separating that module and the Dragon spacecraft is that continuing to monitor that first set of 6 hooks forming that hard mate.
So there on the screen, you see the visuals of the family
And once
in
the
Lucknow,
full set of 12
celebrating the moment.
will continue,
The Dragon capsule made contact with the International Space Station, 5:31 Central Time, 4:01 Indian Standard Time.
between the Harmony module.
Let's cut across to
the
India
Dragon
today's
spacecraft
Akshita Nandagopalan, who's
and
there
access
in
into
the
there.
newsroom. Akshita, you know, it's a proud
then
moment
what
for the
would be then
family
pressurizing
and the
the
country,
vestibule that's
but this process started a long time ago. It is a tedious process and requires extreme precision.
Of course, and what we're seeing right now, Anjali, is what's referred to as a hard mate. The soft capture is done, which is where you see that the Dragon capsule has made contact with the International Space Station. It seems like they merged together. So for any of us, we'd think, look, the docking is done. It's not. It's a long process, an elaborate process. There are 12 hooks that essentially get attached. The first set of 6, and then the next set of 6 get attached. And that means the hard mate is done. And then you will see pressurizing and ensuring that all necessary parameters are stabilized normal before you will see the hatch being opened up. So they're still going to take some time before you can look out for those images of Group Captain Shukla becoming the first Indian at the International Space Station, before you see them really floating in. They've just attached now to what's referred to as the orbit laboratory of the International Space Station. That's where this particular Dragon capsule has latched on, has docked. But now what you're seeing is those 12 hooks, 6 together in one go, another 6 together will latch on. That will ensure a hard mate is done. With that, the process of attaching the Dragon capsule to the ISS is complete. But after that, a set of next processes come into play to ensure that the cabin is stabilized, to ensure that it's safe for the doors to open up. You will see the door, essentially the ISS first opening up, and then the Dragon capsule latch also being opened. At this point, for the crew, they just sit back, wait for the processes to kick in, wait for all of it to be completed. This is the stage where essentially it's completely hands-off for the crew, fully automated, one step after another. You hear that in the commentary. There's clearly a go-ahead that's given, every step update that's also being given to the crew and for all of us to hear as well. But splendid moment that we've just witnessed, and that's history for us. First Indian ever at the International Space Station. That checklist complete now with Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla's Dragon capsule attaching itself, docking itself perfectly to the International Space Station. Just as expected, a few meters moving slowly, it attached itself for a soft capture, and now the hard mate to be done, which could happen in the next few moments, Anjali.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting that the Axiom-4 crew will actually be welcomed once they go inside. There is supposed to be a little greeting ceremony or a welcome ceremony by the NASA's expedition crew. So it is quite a interesting way how things are done there in space as well. One would think, you know, it's very cut and dried, but yes, it's a big moment for everyone.
Very true. You can hear the commentary right now. They're giving us constant updates, Anjali, of what's really happening and how the docking actually has happened. It's a very, very difficult process also, but this is a historic moment that we've just witnessed of the docking actually taking place. And the fact that it's happened with such precision. Remember that 28 hours while the Dragon capsule has been moving since liftoff yesterday, about 12 to 14 hours has been committed to just reaching right up to the International Space Station, because mind you, it's constantly moving. The ISS, even at this stage, is moving, and despite that, you have this docking happening. So you can imagine how difficult really that entire process is. I've been highlighting how it's fully 100% automated. So the trajectory was planned much before. Exactly when the docking would happen was planned much before. Now, on what will happen next, you were talking about a welcome party as well. There is already a crew that's on board the International Space Station. There are astronauts currently who are based there, Anjali, who are ready with a welcome party of sorts for the AX4 crew. Once the docking is fully done. At this point, yes, the steps are being completed, so we can't really say, that the Dragon capsule has attached itself to the International Space Station. It's still on. It's an ongoing process. Once it's done, you can expect opening remarks. Essentially, in all likelihood, it will be from the mission commander, Peggy Whitson. We're not yet sure if we will be able to hear from Group Captain Shukla as well on that historic moment. But after that, there will be a small welcome party that will take place on board the International Space Station, and hopefully we'll continue to get images of that as well, because it's also the first time that it will kind of set in that you're going to see of an Indian at the International Space Station. It's also the first time that the crew will be able to stretch their legs a bit. 28 hours, they've been cramped inside a very, very small area in that capsule. So while they've been able to get up from their seat, it's literally just to turn around and then to be seated back, because there's very limited space in that capsule. So this is the first time, once the doors are open and they make their way into the International Space Station, that they'll actually be able to stretch their legs as well, which I'm sure is a welcome relief for them. This has been attached to the orbit laboratory of the ISS. So that's the wing essentially that they will be entering into first.
Absolutely. And this is, as we were discussing earlier, it's a historic moment. But the job is not done after the docking. Actually, the job starts after that. 14 days of intense hard work. Can you explain to us what is on agenda for Shuks there?
A number of very, very important experiments that will help with ISRO's Gaganyaan mission, for which, of course, Shukla is also going to be there. So that will be his second time in space. But obviously, he understands full well the kind of experience that he'll be bringing on board. Experiments that he's going to be conducting are all handpicked by ISRO. You have many of them, over 60 experiments essentially, that have been chosen not just by the countries and agencies that are a part of this mission, but several others. Over 30 nations have kind of pitched in, Anjali, to say what kind of missions they want also conducted, so they can learn from this mission, which is why I've been saying, let's cut across live. I think the docking is complete.
Very exciting moment for all those aboard.
And this is a historic moment. Ladies and gentlemen, hands up in the air. And if you want, you can wave out. Feel that Shuks is right in front of us in the screen, and the wheels are wide. May I see all hands, both the hands up in the air, waving. And the commentary, it's a historic moment.
So there you saw the family of Group Captain Shukla as well, celebrating the moment. Their mother, you can see her on the screen, emotional and thanking the higher power for safe docking. Father smiling and beaming with pride as his son becomes part of history. Not just his son, but the entire team, as Group Captain Shukla mentioned, that this docking or this expedition is a tribute to many who have been part of it. The entire journey of making this human expedition of an Indian possible, the first time an Indian will be at the International Space Station.
Mission 4, the private astronaut mission with Peggy Whitson, who you just heard talking on the big loop, the single line of communications between all four parties, sharing her excitement as she returns to the International Space Station, bringing up first-time flyers and pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO and mission specialist Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski of ESA and Tibor Kapu of Hunor. Contact between the two, between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station at 5:31 a.m. Central Time. And now that the hooks have connected, all 12 and umbilicals deployed, providing power and communications. Now the team inside the International Space Station, namely Nicole Ayers, is going to start beginning the hatch opening procedures. And now that we're docked, she will secure some hardware and then move right into those operations. And first we'll open the large hatch at the Node 2 Zenith, or the space-facing port, side of the Harmony module, and that's what you see, similar to where that NASA logo is. That's the Harmony module that the pressurized mating adapter is jettisoning up into and connecting to the Dragon Grace spacecraft. And then from there, she'll traverse into that pressurized mating adapter, and we'll begin pressurizing the vestibule, which is that small space between the hatches on Dragon and the space station. And we have talked about this has been exposed to vacuum prior to docking, and we'll need to fill that space with air to make sure that pressure is equal with the atmospheric pressures on Dragon and the International Space Station. Also putting away some hardware in the process, including the docking across. And Airs will use a small valve on the station's hatch to slowly introduce that air into the vestibule. And flight controllers here in Houston will continue to monitor the pressure and temperature readings inside and verify that everything is A-OK and leak-free before we get ready to open up the hatches.